Hello, everybody. Welcome to Darkness in Dublin. The Mage venue is down by the River Liffey, in the more faraway parts, so people are not staring the mundanities of the world. Callie Bjornsson has spent most of the day preparing. A few broken tools here, a few broken tools there. She's brought a small altar right down to the riverbed, several small candles attached to pieces of wood, with ringlets of various flowers, shaped almost like a snake chasing its own tail. She places a very intricately painted wooden goblet on the altar, and she sets the altar right down just at the edge of the riverbed, placing each of the small candle-lit floating rings into the water. She undoes her shoes and hitches up the kind of long, flowy dress she is now wearing, and slowly sliding into the water, feeling the cold touch her legs, her feet. She begins to mutter things in this dark, rumbling tone of Old Norse, honoring a god of light that has fallen into Hell's realm, her conduit's realm. She dips her face under the water, letting her scarred face, her dead face, feel that brush of cold. It is where the other two mages will see the verbena, honoring her gods, her people, her way.
Okay, I give up on the war of attrition over who goes next. Um, Morgan has undoubtedly been about her own proper observances, her own performances for the sake of Lou, honoring the appropriate god on the appropriate day. But sooner or later, she'll be out and about. She can't not be. She's reasonably physically active, and if nothing else, this is one hell of a day to be so. She will actually probably trot up, um, with a bit of a sheen of sweat, looking a bit puffed out. She's probably been at a run, reasonably understandably. But all the same, we'll come about to this place, especially seeing as there's a bonfire there to attract the attention. And yeah, we'll admittedly probably go so far as to trot up, takes a glance at the fire appreciably, and likewise just kind of flicks off her shoes, just kicks them off kind of haphazardly, and never minding the fact that her pants are going to be drenched in the process. Will wade partway out into the water as well, if nothing else, just to enjoy the cold. It's admittedly pretty goddamn refreshing after a run. And so she won't necessarily interrupt right off the bat, but she will get into proximity and into the water. Not even up to the knees just yet, just enough to break the surface and cool her poor feet.
Oh, Callie's like now up to like her waist.
No, she'll look out. She'll watch. Especially with the little floaties and whatnot going on. She does pay mind to them, doesn't comment. This isn't her particular ritual, this isn't her observance. But there's some unspoken respect there. And like is not a glance around just to ensure that the mundanes are staying well away. Can't have muggles wandering in.
As you glance around, there is a man in a very well-to-do suit with a cane and a top hat. It's very familiar. He was Collins is there, and he is standing at the edge of the River Liffey, and he's got a shoulder satchel with him and a small drum. He sits on the bank of the river, and he's moving the tip of his cane around as if doodling something in the sand as he pulls out a few things from the shoulder satchel and makes a small little fire, and he starts drumming kind of arrhythmically, haphazardly.
That'll get him an inquisitive glance at least, just simply because these are practices she's not even remotely familiar with. There are certain likenesses between the Norse and Celtic, well, observances. But what he's doing, it's a little strange. So it's
Nice.
curious. There's almost a bird-like cant to the head, the very abrupt little tilt, but again, she doesn't interrupt.
He throws something into the fire, and it begins to smoke a little bit more, and takes a hit from his flask, swallows some of it, pours some of the flask out, and then spits it into the flame as it flares, and then starts throwing more things into the fire, all while drumming. You smell allspice, cloves, cinnamon, vanilla, and then you start getting that heavy, weighty smell of tobacco.
There's a light upward turn of the nose. This time, the single eye kind of lulling shut as she lolls her head this way, lolls her head that way, susses out what she can of what's been thrown into the fire. And finally, with a final glance to Callie to see if she's responding or if she's still in the midst of her worship, will probably turn to start back towards the bank.
Callie emerges out of the water, like literally. You know the way like she sinks under the water and literally emerges like a snake that's crossing across. And then we'll just slowly walk over to the altar and drain the goblet and closing her eyes and opening it again. Nodding to herself.
As she does so, a less prepared Morgan will be collecting this and that, some deadfall, whatever she can get her hands on, eventually producing a lighter and creating a third, very small, like, little beach bonfire, as it were. But a third. Because after all, 3 is a very auspicious number. And even if the 2 are smaller than the 1, there's no need to be competitive here. So she will begin slowly trying to coax to life a fire.
And she kind of just turns to the other 2. Waiting for one of them to speak.
He is chanting in a foreign language, and his drumming comes to an abrupt stop. Like it's moving along at a normal pace, and then it just stops. He reaches into the pouch, and he pulls out what appears to be some sort of a pastry, and he wraps it in twine, knotting it, and throws it into the fire, which flares and crackles. The smell of sugar and sweet fruits waft through the air before the smell of the char and burn.
And as the pair of them are concluding, it'll probably be about then that Morgan finally has the thing self-sufficient, the flames starting to lick at the larger pieces of wood, and she just kind of slumps back onto her rear in front of it, glancing over the other two, just kind of musing, fiddling with the spearhead dangling from her neck. And is kind of glancing to see who's really all there and who is not.
Collins will anoint himself with a little bit of ash from the fire, and then he will look up as if suddenly becoming there again. And will smile and nod over at Morgan.
She gives a nod, faint grin. Welcome back. Looks a leaf into the fire. And you said Callie was looking up in between them as well?
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, Callie seems more or less aware. She just seems to just slowly dry her hair, like wringing it out from the braids.
And at this point, Collins will reach into his pouch and pull out some other small pastries and offer them.
Just a curious hand stretches over and she takes one of them.
Yeah. Morgan
Just
is... Oh, go ahead.
A spiced rum and coffee cake.
No, Morgan is pretty demonstrably food motivated to a certain point, so she'll hop up and wander around to Collins and his other small and admittedly, well, better tended fire. And yeah, come around to collect what he's offering out, nodding, appreciation as she does so. And almost immediately, that thing is getting maybe a faint, curious sniff before it will be in her mouth because, yep, food. Trusted source, food.
It is a coffee cake soaked in spiced rum.
Oh, there's appreciative nibbling. She does not just jam the whole thing in her mouth, thankfully. But yeah, she will actually, take a half bite of it curiously and perk up a bit. And again, turns a glance over to Collins like, holy shit, and then gives another deeper nod this time and resolves herself to more reverent nibbling because this is actually pretty fucking good. And she wants to make it last.
Callie
go ahead.
Callie just slowly nibbles, from her right side. She just slowly seems to nibble it.
An auspicious day for you too, then.
It's a beautiful day down at the crossroads.
Then adjust. And she finally just kind of collapses to the ground with a woof. Just that boneless flop. There's no grace. There's only preserving the pastry.
So what brings y'all down to the river?
Today is the day Balder died. The god of light.
I was on a run. I've trained extensively today. My arm is tired. It was time for a run. And she kind of nods out too, the little floaty bits. I like them.
And that's an honor to the Jorgamander. You carried his body all the way down to hell.
Pity.
And she was always so waiting.
She was what?
She was so willing. She was so willing and waiting.
It was a faint smirk, more nibbling.
If anything, everyone didn't anticipate how Loki tricked him. Just a smile, and again, it's that grimacing snarl every time she smiles.
So how did he die?
Just a smile. Balder was invincible, impervious to all things, magic or physical. His mother, Frigg, seen to it that way to protect him. Then one day he gathered all the gods, the Aesir and the Vanir, to test out this. You see, Freya, in her knowledge, had sworn all plants and all things in life that they would do no harm, but one plant swore not to do that, and that was mistletoe. For it did not believe it could harm such a great man. Loki found out about this secret and coated a blade in mistletoe and handed it to the blind giant Thorim, who swung the blade spear so mightily and hard and struck Balder straight through the chest. And the golden god fell. And my mother was waiting. She always is waiting.
And Morgan's nodding along, still nibbling, and admittedly is kind of just staring out over the water.
We honor Balder because when Balder died, the great sun rose at its highest, peaking the end. One of the signs of Ragnarok was coming. But we also honor the children of Fenrir, Skold and Hoti. Chase the sun and the moon. But on this day, when the golden god died, even they stopped the hunt for the briefest of seconds.
Morgan does not miss the irony. She is not wearing the wolf pelt like a total freak, like up on her head again, but it is definitely been kind of creatively bound in such a way that it is worn something like a sash around her waist. But she's still got kind of a 1,000-yard stare going over the water. She's hearing enough to nod and to acknowledge what's being said, but thinking.
Collins will nod. Quite the tale.
nods her head. What about you? She sits down, crossing her legs.
Today? Why, today is the day we celebrate Papa Legba. He is one of the guardians of the crossroads. Exu Eluwa. Papa Legba, trickster, warrior, Lord of Destiny. We honor him today so we can remain intact and in line with his plans, so that the gates may remain open. We honor him with the things he loves and the way he likes them.
Tips up the pastry. He's got good taste.
He does.
What about you, Morgan?
I have been doing my best to honor Lou. To emulate what I can. She's still peering out at the water. Very thoughtfully, I narrowed. But it hasn't been much. It hasn't been enough. She kind of squints. First at one and then the other. Are either of you healers?
Well, myself. But I will, if you're talking of the flesh. But the gods can bestow immaculate gifts with a little bit of time, a little bit of effort.
Start appealing then, if you would be so kind. And she'll kind of start pulling herself up. She is not putting down the pastry, but begins to kind of just mellow, like tug the hide from around her waist, set it aside. Carefully, pulls the spearhead and its chain over her head, sets it with the hide, kicks her boots over, starts kind of collecting a little pile of belongings that, well, she probably just doesn't want to get wet, really.
Studies her.
Be careful. The gods don't always listen super quick.
What are you trying to do?
She pitches Collins a toothy smile. You know CPR.
Damn good question. Do I?
Question of the day.
I do.
Oh. Good. I hope you're good at it.
What are you attempting to do then, Morgan?
Just try not to break all my ribs. Come on. She's kind of still grinning. Just starts strutting towards the water. We'll go in like halfway up the shins, pause to glance back.
Kai gets up slowly, slithers up, and walks over.
And as something of an afterthought, before she gets too far from dry land, she will actually pluck off the eye patch and flick it back onto the dry earth because, well, it's leather too, and soaking it does nobody any favors. So for the sake of the person who hasn't seen it yet, let me quickly try to pull this up. There's that, and of course I haven't. That would be too easy. Give me one moment. Son of a bitch. So if I'd saved it where it was easy to find, that would have been way too smart. We'll remedy that real fast. Pull it up in here. Bless my little heart for not prepping this ahead of time. So once she does flick off the eye patch, for Collins, she's got an eye.
Well, that's lovely.
It ain't normal, but
Nope.
there's definitely an eye there. It might be easy to write off as a contact if she didn't keep it covered 99% of the time. But that a very bright red eye with a slit pupil is what she keeps under there. And once she's flicked that back on to the, the dry ground behind them, turns and pitches a glance around to Callie and goes simply gesturing in just polite invitation out to the deeper water. Drown me.
Head tilt.
Blink.
Why? She's kind of not like in them like, oh, why would you do this? No, it's more like genuine like, why?
Lou accomplished many things, but what set him apart was that he could accomplish a lifetime's mastering of a skill, and then another, and then another. There's nothing better that I could do to emulate him than to show some appreciation for the death he died.
She just nods once. And literally like a python, you go down, just boom. You know what I mean?
She'll start wading into the water because she wasn't very deep in. But yeah, she will just keep going and let you walk behind her so that she won't see it coming.
Mm-hmm. Collins watches Callie strike. She's literally like an anaconda. It's just bam. Like Morgan, like you feel your knee hit your back and you go head first down, you know?
I imagine that'll knock some of the breath out of her too. Yeah, she there is some measure of just good old-fashioned will to live, but all things considered, she literally asked for it. So, yeah, she topples in, and there's probably a bit of a struggle as she, just for some reason, wants to twist just this way, wants to face up, wants to face down. It's not an earnest attempt to get back to the surface, per se. Not after the first sweep or two of her arms, but it's motion, because it's very hard for someone like her to just go quietly into the depths.
So when that happens, like he pulls his knees up almost to his chest, and he just kind of leans forward on him, lights a cigar, takes a hit, and watches intently.
Oh yeah. I mean, Callie's grip is fucking, it's like a snake that has its prey. It's not letting go anytime soon.
Oh yeah. And there will eventually, thankfully, while Morgan still has the sense to have some restraint, she won't fight, so Callie should be able to get a pretty good grip around her, like really lock on. So by the time she gets to where she's really running out of air, and desperately needs it and starts kind of thrashing, it's not going to do the job. Not after you've had a chance to really get a good lungful yourself and latch. And never mind that you could probably stand and keep her held just under.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she will go on until she starts taking in water. At which point, yeah, it gets a little frantic. I actually probably should roll, but... Nah, fuck it. It gets a bit frantic, but... yeah, she'll start taking in water. And I imagine there's some sort of heaving of the body as it gets to the point where, like, you accept that you're dying. That's just what's happening now. After you suck in a mouth and nose full of water. That's it.
And eventually, she's like, Callie grabs Morgan by the hair and just lifts. You know, so Morgan comes out literally like a head first out of the water.
Is she going to hold her under until she's like outright like unconscious and done, or while she still has something left in her?
Unconscious. She said,
Yep.
hold her down.
She did. Yeah, you pull a limp woman out of the water.
Yeah, Callie hefts her up slowly, like go around her shoulders, so Morgan kind of curls in and is wading her way, moving quite quickly through the water. Probably as Morgan's curled up, Callie is given that kind of like mouth to mouth, essentially.
And yeah, I will assume to take it as bashing because I'm pretty sure that's how
Yeah.
drowning works.
Yeah, it is.
So I'll give her a pretty gruesome amount of bashing. In fact, since we did get to the point where she's unconscious and has probably taken on a good amount, I'll put her at a little bit of lethal because rollover is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So she is not going to be initially responsive.
Look over at Callie. If you're gonna move, now would be the time.
Just nods. Not roll that in medicine because I don't have life 3 yet.
Yep.
Sadly. Sad face.
That's okay.
That's not. Oh yeah, 2 successes. She just starts pumping your chest quite calmly, quite controlled, you know, and basically 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 30 compressions, 2 breaths.
And yep, it is, admittedly. You know, she's not going to respond to it while she's still out, but it's that, you know, massive force being thrust down on the rib cage. Couple breaths. And it may take a moment, but all things considered, it's not as though she is that far gone. And it won't be but so long before she finally starts hawking up water. And, you know, kind of pitches reflexively into a tight curl because, oh god, her rib cage.
Like what happens is because you cough up a lot of water because the water from your lungs, and basically Callie will turn you over fully, so like your belly goes against her knees, so you're turned to your side. Your body then will almost regag essentially, so you start vomiting and coughing up water. That's basically how it does. That's how it usually does it when you're doing CPR and from drowning.
Yep. It is not a graceful or dignified process. No. She, you know, especially heaved over so she doesn't just re-aspirate it, will begin just a heinous bout of coughing, vomiting, gagging, and just begin regurgitating the water that is in her lungs and probably at least a little in her belly. And all things considered, with the way that she eats, there is plenty there to come up. Never mind all the water. But she will probably be at it for a hot minute. Never mind, the coughing fit's going to last for a while.
For an interesting thing about Collins when he's watching Callie, her left side of her face barely moves. You can see the sweat and like redness on the right side of her face, but it's almost like a minor delay, as if that left side doesn't quite go as alive where the scars are. It's almost like there's this kind of stunted effect on him. The nerves react and the eyes twitch and all that, but it seems everything's almost seems stilted and stunned.
And he watches real, he's watching real close.
And eventually she'll look at Morgan. That's it. Cough it up and you'll be fine. You're going to have to do some healing of your own. Make sure the water is all actually gone. That's how most drowning victims fall prey to it. There is still leftover residue in the lungs.
She will eventually, especially as it gets to the point where she's not coughing up as much anymore. It's just that horrible, wretched, like, coughing and gagging, but not a lot of production, I guess. You'll begin to hear her, like, kind of laughing at herself. It's weak. It's barely there. But it's there. When she finally can get her breath long enough to get any words out, it's just like, oh, I told you not to break all my ribs. Fuck.
You said to hold you down there. You struggled.
Shit.
Probably Callie's cold left hand does not help. You know, the comforting effect, essentially.
It's not. But that's okay. Yeah, she won't actually even try to struggle off the lap where she's been propped so that she's, facing just so. She's not stupid. But she just, it is. It's not pretty. And yeah. Let me take a quick sneaky peek at my shit. I dare say that counts as offerings and sacrifice.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll agree.
Yep.
And yeah. She will,
Okay, 1 second.
Okay. She will kind of weakly start muttering a prayer. And yeah. Gonna roll me some Arte. Oh, it's what? Standard diff is... I have a chart for this now.
I would say this is definitely without witnesses, anyway.
Jesus. Is it vulgar?
I think it might be.
I have no idea. Probably.
But don't you get a diff reduction because you're using one of your foci?
I do. So it would be 7 minus... One is 6. And then I'll pop to Quint.
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, that's still one success. It's probably enough to at least wick off the fucking lethal. So she'll look rough and yeah. We'll utter a prayer and finally give a last nasty heave that pitches the remaining water out of her lungs. And then finally starts kind of, again, compared to her normal kind of stiff behavior or kind of striking motion, it's a very weak process as she starts to kind of sit herself up, rubbing a hand down her face, mostly to clear, like, under her nose and mouth.
As she goes to sit up, Collins will put his hand on her back to kind of help steady her and support.
Oh, what a shitty way to go.
Drowning's no fun.
Could be worse. At least you weren't killed by something related to mistletoe. She'll smirk down at her.
Oh, come on. At least it was on a weapon, right?
Coated with mistletoe, yes.
Could have been better, but at least it was death in combat. Oh, God.
It wasn't. That's why he went down to hell. She just patted the side of her head like, you silly, you stupid Celtic fuck. You know, that type of tap.
She's not even mad. She hasn't read the book yet. They're just kind of like the idle hand wave at, like, I'm gonna... Nah. It's nothing.
Rubs her back, just like back and forth with the one hand.
I suppose not. That is how it works. Oh, fuck. Starts just kind of rubbing her eyes. And actually, that's right, you're rubbing her back. I don't know that it would show through wet fabric, but especially if you were rubbing along her back, there are two very distinct lines where it feels kind of I'm not talking like subtle scarring, I'm talking like pretty deep nasty shit. It starts right about and is probably the gnarliest up right at her shoulder blades and just runs from either one in a line down her back.
He nods.
Admittedly, she doesn't seem to think anything of it or be especially concerned that you were touching them, but
Kind of nods over at Callie. Right. Let's get you. He will kind of push up off of her first to help him stand as he goes back to his pouch. Walks back over with it and a couple of more cakes and 2 small corked bottles, or 3 corked bottles. Not quite full beer size, but like 3/4 sized.
Takes him, begins to nibble and take sips.
yeah, admittedly, she just kind of autopilot accepts. Though she almost looks at that bottle like, you've betrayed me, fluids. It will not stop her, mind you. But there's at least that moment of pause. She really debates whether she should drink it. It doesn't last.
Help calm the nerves after. after a brush through the waters.
Isn't
Uh-oh.
that the crossroads?
He nods.
Should have waved. Kind of dopey grin. One might imagine that she's like got all sorts of chemical whatnot going on. It's a pretty dopey grin.
So is that your oblation?
I fucking hope it was enough. If it wasn't, well, she kind of shakes her head. I'll try harder next time. Finally flops back onto her back. Not into the mess that she has made in the dirt and sand, just up on the bank a bit further. Ah.
Seems we three have a connection at least. Kelly will just say sitting down, taking a slow sip from the bottle.
It's a light beer, definitively homemade, crafted with all of the finest goods.
Oh, she smiles when she takes a sip. She's like, ooh.
Made with Crafts 3 Brewing.
Oh, damn. Yeah, she just smiles. She takes a sip. Seems us three are already forming quite the connection.
Seems like.
The finger just kind of pokes up. Auspicious. Nibbles cakes.
He'll chuckle. Funny how the world works out.
Just the
Very.
way it's supposed to. Isn't it? Rygrin.
We should do this again. We should do this again sometime. Takes another drink.
He'll sip from his beer and chew on his pastry. I think that might be a wise and ever so prudent idea.
Why sometime? Why not all the time? Finally hoists herself back up into a sit because she can't drink the beer laying down. Though an experimental sip does not send her into another horrible fit of coughing, she more eagerly swigs.
All the time. She like raises an eyebrow.
Kind of squints aside. Have you not worked with others?
No, I normally work alone.
Shoots a glance the other side to Collins.
I'm usually leading a congregation. I'm used to working together.
Kind of nods in agreement to that. Unlike some, Oh, she'll remain tactically unnamed for the moment. At least we can understand, have some respect for each other's practice.
Indeed.
Different pantheons, different beliefs, but all still the same.
All still the same in the long run. Different, but the same. There's no reason we couldn't. And couldn't we all use allies with the things that are mustering up around here?
True, especially for ones such as us, and what they will look for, especially.
She quick side glance over to Colin, see if he's following.
I hear the drums.
The Archbishop has left the city. I believe we are now in the tender care of the High Inquisitor of the Templars.
So, that is a troublesome thought.
I thought so.
They are, groups gonna eat its own. And then after that, it's gonna start looking elsewhere.
Exactly.
How long do you think we have?
Depends on what we do, I think. I've already talked to Callie, so she'll turn her attention more squarely on Collins. It wouldn't be the first time that a group split over differences in belief. Don't you think?
Gonna
Oh,
give them something else to fight.
if the ones being hunted have something to rally behind, if we could find them a symbol or a figurehead, they begin to become organized. And rather than being hunted down one by one, perhaps they handle their own business. And at worst, if they're able to get out of their reach, perhaps in return for the favor, should the Templars come looking for other heathens, we have a faction to reach out to.
A nod. Brash. Oh, you got someone in mind?
I don't know. I've met a rabbi, and perhaps I could speak to him on it, but I don't know enough about their faith to understand what would make for a proper symbol or figurehead. I suppose the Templars could kill a figurehead, but you would think that Christians and Catholics would know better than to go making martyrs, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
All you do is take away a man and give them a saint. Besides, know about your case, but I know we at least. She glances over to Callie. No, well and good. How it feels to be hunted. I can't say that I understand their faith or would turn to them, ally with them normally. But why let history repeat itself? He's kind of measuring him for expression for an answer. Just kind of picking up whatever she can get. Like in peony, if you like.
Happens. I, I haven't even put miles on my shoes on the ground here, so I don't really know anyone. People I met were really the night of the hunt. And the night where she, Agrafon nights.
It's not.
Then we have a group.
I think so. I believe that we are on our way to a fantastic bit of shenanigans.
Kat just smiles at that. Just kind of leans her head against Morgan, smiling as she's taking slow sips.
And all things considered, let me go look this back up again. Feel free to continue while I do that.
Should potentially look for safe meeting grounds.
Somewhere out of the way. Something we can build on.
Yeah, something. Where a little noise won't get too much attention. Good place to go to ground when the dogs of the hunt start rolling through.
Nods. I can make sure no living thing passes through either. All you need to do is just give me time to set up a ward.
We'll find the auspicious place. Not the auspicious time when it's right.
Slow nod of the head, smiling.
I'd say if we've been guided so tidily together, one might dare say we would be guided to just so auspicious a place at just so auspicious a time.
Let shenanigans ensue. And he takes a nice long draw from his bottle.
Yep. Oh yeah, same here.
Oh, yep. Holds it back. You know what? Just for fun. Because I fucking can. No, wait on it. Fuck it. We're gonna at least, especially with the head leaned against her shoulder, we'll turn a glance. Probably, kind of do that thing where you touch your nose to the top of someone's head very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, we'll turn a glance again. Tell me more about you, Collins. She actually beckons him a bit closer. Like, come on, into the happy circle. Come here. Get where I can reach you. Do it.
He will. He'll scoot on over. Dublin via Chicago. Rather, from New Orleans via Chicago to here. I go where I'm instructed to go for reasons that are not always the clearest to me.
I suppose it wouldn't be any fun if they were.
A bit of learning. A little bit of growing. Always one hell of a ride, he says as he takes another sip from the bottle. I'm expecting strange and unusual things. I'm not expecting to walk out of here with a story or two whenever I'm told to go. That's what it's like when you're one of the chosen.
We all do seem to be a hand-picked group, don't we? We'll reach over and, I imagine Kelly's got, soggy hair here and there. Kind of pulls a tendril of it back.
About yourself.
There's a quirk of a grin. Always toothy. Always. Albeit not as intense as usual, because, let's face it, she's just been through some rough shit. And she is looking half like a drowned rat. As strange as it sounds, I couldn't really tell you.
What?
I woke up. I know where I live. I know my responsibilities. I know I'm Morgan. And that's it.
You don't know where you're from? What you do?
I know what I do. Much as you seem to do. Lead my people. But no, that's it. That's all of it. Seems that all I am is the daughter of the Morgan.
Oh, I'm sure there's more there.
She shrugs. And she hasn't collected the eye patch again. It's very normal expressions, a slight eye roll here and there, but there's still just the one, just very strikingly red eye. I am what I am, and not whatever I was. I guess. I try not to think about it.
Fair enough.
I think too
Makes
hard.
sense.
Just might wake up. Quirks a playful grin.
That is always something to be worried of when you woke in a fantastic dream.
Seems a shame to put in so much effort. If I'll wake up before the story's over, don't you think?
You'll wake up sometime.
I have a friend who insists that I am more awake than I've ever been. Doesn't feel very much like it, though. Hopefully. I know you will meet him. She kind of turns a glance down to Callie. Though she flicks the eyes back up to Collins again. I should hope that you will. I'll ask him. He's a good friend to have.
I tend to meet a lot of real weird people at real weird times. I look forward to meeting this friend of yours.
I look forward to it too. She kind of gives the bottle a wiggle. I dare say he might appreciate that you are willing to make and harvest and do. Flick a glance down to the top of Callie's head again, since it's on her shoulder.
Watching the waves.
Don't you want to join in sharing time? Kind of a grin.
What is there to share? I am the conduit of the children of Loki. Is my mother. Fenrir is my brother. And your commander is my brother. And the gods awoke and sent me on a mission, and I'm here to fulfill it. Just smile. Again, the horrific grimace, you know.
I remember more of that dream I was telling you about.
You can tell me about it later.
If you like.
Nods.
It's always entertaining.
Perhaps we can all listen to it together as we lie down to sleep.
Come morning, mayhaps, 'cause there's a long night ahead of us. Plenty of things gonna get riled real soon when that goes down. Looks at the sun.
Good.
Are they?
It's always what happens. Weirdness gathers.
Weirdness.
Well, then let us drink and be merry until the sun goes down, until we all go wild.
The bottle comes up again because fucking cheers to that. Have ourselves a proper night of it. I hope you've
Indeed.
planned for bonfires.
Callie reaches over to her bag, opens up the bag, and pops a mushroom in her mouth. Offers two to the other two.
He will smile and shake his head no politely. Appreciate it, but tonight's clarity is brought to us by the spirits of the land and sea. At which point he hits his flask.
We'll take it. The fact that she kind of, the eyebrow kind of, well, both eyebrows, since you can see them both kind of pop up like, ooh. And yeah, I'll take it. Pop it in her mouth. Idly chew, and honestly, after a couple moments when she's swallowed it, we'll, fuck it. It's time to do the thing on impulse. Since Callie is leaned right up next to her, she'll turn a glance around and kind of reach up to take her chin, not with a ton of force, but to turn her to face her.
Callie's like made like, but what? You know what I mean?
That intensive eye contact, though. And she just simply says, "Let me thank you," and goes straight for a fucking snog. And I'm gonna roll to see if I can pass you some Quint.
Hot.
Oh my.
Hot.
Oh my. This prince starts playing, I just want your kiss. Don't
And
need
let's
to
see.
be-
I'll drop a little bit of it so I can still pass you some. I've got the is this vulgar? I don't know if it's vulgar.
It's not.
I was gonna say this is coincidental, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure.
Let me do a quick look. See how many successes I get. That'll put it down another one.
Well, depends on how many you get.
Oh Jesus.
So I've managed, I think, to pass you at least one. Not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, she does that and in the process manages to transfer a point of quintessence.
Callie is surprised. She's like, "Whoa, ooh, or kissing me."
Yeah.
Ooh, quintessence.
Ooh, yeah.
And then she lays it on her real hard, real good for a second, passes the quint, and then just lets go. Pops back up.
She doesn't quite look shocked. If anything, you see her rub her scar, kind of just softly with the tips of her fingers.
There's kind of a brow quirk.
It gets sensitive.
Oh. blink. Like, I had not even considered this possible. How come? And
he will, as Morgan goes for the snowed bones, will take a hit from his flask and just kind of lean back in that. Definitely you get the feel that this is not the first time this has happened around him. Won't be the last. This is almost comfortable, or at least not. I wouldn't say comfortable, not awkward scenario. And he chuckles and takes a bite of this pastry.
yep, hers are gone, as is the mushroom. And as such, while that thing is still working its way into her system, she will offer Callie a light pat on the shoulder. Will haul up just to get herself closer to the bonfire because she's still soggy. And she drapes herself out there, eyes kind of easing shut. I think I'll have myself a couple winks before things really kick off.
Oh boy, well, you enjoy us in that running round land. Dreams.
Callie just leans back in the grass and looking up at the sky, draping her legs right over Morgan's back, essentially.
Turn a glance to Collins.
He's leaning back and he is just looking around. He is relaxed. He is peaceful, but he's got that caretaker's eye as he's looking around.
Then she won't nudge him, not even for funsies. She'll, if anything, quirk a bit of a grin. Go ahead and shut her eyes. We'll make sure to have a hell of a time to make up for the nap. And yeah, that'll just kind of fold her arms under her. Nest in, because let's face it, even with Callie passing out, it looks like Collins intends to keep a weather eye. Safe enough.
That is the plan.
Well, then, would you guys like to do anything else, or shall we call it here until the real shenanigans come about?
Yeah, that's probably the best place to call it.
Yep.
Very well. Then we call it here. As hashtag Team Pagan survives a drowning attempt. Yay!